And let's, I guess the first thing that we will ask you all to do is this, and hopefully this will be very quick. Take out your Chromebooks, please, and your phones. Go into, we'll have you sign up now for our Google Classroom. Here is your code. So if you go into Google Classroom, our code is RQX751X. Hopefully that's easy. There was some issue with it in the first class. Make sure, please, that when you are signed in, it's signed in under your Webster CSD account. It won't let you if it's under your personal Gmail. Some of the kids that did that got boxed out, and that was the issue. If you have multiple Google accounts, make sure that you're in as your Webster CSD one. That allows you to get and open the files that we go through and have. Any problems with this? Raise your hand if you got it done. Nice and high. All right, we'll give it another minute. Give it a minute. Did you just start it up? Okay, give it a minute. The other thing that we will have you all go through and do, this is on one of the sheets that you picked up. Yeah, the other thing that we'll have you do, raise your hand if you used Remind before. Okay. Some of you have, some of you haven't. If you haven't, I guess, easiest way to get alerts for class, I need to disable it. I'm going to get like 500 pop-ups in a second. Go in, text the number 81010 with @Mac Enriched 2, not Enriched, ENRICH2. It's also on that expectation sheet that you all did when you signed in. If you don't have a phone or don't want to get alerts that way, I'll show you. You can go in to Google Classroom and click on this. So down here where it says Remind, if you don't have texting, you don't have a phone, whatever reason, or you don't want them on your phone, you can go through and just select this, click on this third posting that's down there. It will sign it up. I think it has a way for your email to do it. But again, the number to go through and message. We have questions on this. Your classroom is at work?
It's not logging into
It's not logging into it? Does it take a minute or no? Because you've got some. How many do we have? We've got some. Who is not able to get into classroom? Okay. Is it that it's not taking the code itself?
Yeah.
QRX751X. What's that? And it's giving you an error. Then let's do this. We'll try again tomorrow. Maybe it's just that everything, school starts everywhere. Maybe just the number of people that are trying. Who here didn't get it to go through? Nice and hot. Oh, okay. So about half of you guys didn't. I'll go through and see. Actually, wait. It probably is just the number of responses that it was getting.
I just did it in all caps lock.
It did?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe try that. Caps lock, you said?
Yeah.
Okay, try it with caps lock, and let's see if maybe that. We'll go through them. With caps lock, it works? Try it again. Okay. I guess give it a try with the caps. All right. Who still isn't able to get it in that? Try with the caps. Any more? Sorry, not perfect, but close. All right. So, and you're going to be doing the same thing like 500 times. Right. Again, if those of you who didn't sign up or don't have a phone or want an email alert instead of a text message alert, if you click on this, it gives you some sort of instructions on how to go through and sign up. All right, so if those two things are done, you can put your computers away, and you can set your phones away as well. Please understand, we don't use the computers in here that much. Like, it's not part of our assignment. We did one. Understand this. In terms of your expectations sheet, which is here, the stuff that you need for class, we have a class set of calculators over on the side. Raise your hand if you have your own Inspire whatever calculator. Okay. I'm not going to ask that you bring it to class because those 30 will be here every day. You can use your own at home, but I don't ask that you go through and bring your own in. We'll go through, once we get through this sheet, we'll have you pick them up and show you. From what I understand, have you all ever logged into the calculator? Okay. So there's actual logins that we're going to go through and do. So every day when you come in, well, we'll go through what our days are, because every day is pretty much the same. Every day when you come in, waiting for you over here, there's not going to be 5 sheets, there will be 1. And there's an assessment that's going to have 3 to 5 multiple choice questions on it, on topics that we've done the day before or maybe 2 days before, like adding stuff from Geo, maybe, whatever it is. Waiting for you on the stop. You're going to come in, pick that up. You got 5 or 10 minutes to go through and finish it. We'll normally leave a timer up front. The earlier you get here, some of the kids figure that out. If you get here kind of early, you can get maybe an extra 4 or 5 minutes on others. But in any case, we'll do that, and then you hand those up and over, and then we go through and we take notes for a portion of the time. Sometimes we do group work, but that's pretty much it. It's very redundant and repetitive. We do group work sporadically, but not every day. The stuff that you need for class, don't worry about the calculator. I ask that you get a large binder for this reason. When you all pick this up, there's always a subset. People are like, oh my God, the note packet is so big. Keep in mind that this isn't like just some printout from some textbook or website. I had to actually make this. So if you think it's a lot to hold, it's a very lot to make. There is like a textbook that we'll give you. It's a code for an electronic book online. All of the books, essentially, since they went to Common Core, aren't that good. So myself, 3 teachers from this area and 2 people from Albany and 1 from Syracuse came together and put all of our stuff together to make actual notes that will help you progress better than, I guess, the textbook will. So that's what your book essentially is. This is Unit 1. I think we have like 14 units during the year. So be cognizant of the get a binder that's good enough to hold these, because you don't want to be losing them too towards the end of the year. Doesn't have to necessarily be colossal, but big enough to hold those. I think the first group said, is there paper? Take a look underneath that pink fold. Is there paper or pink shell? Is there paper underneath the calculator skid? There is? Yeah, if you ever need loose leaf paper, I've got a ton of it for you over on the side. You can go through and use that. I don't know. They're, in my mind, the bravest people, like the top are the people like that are in the military and like firemen and police. Those are the bravest people you will ever meet. And then right underneath them, the second bravest people are people who do math. I don't know how that happens. I have gone through 8 years of post-secondary education. It means 8 years of math after high school. I still use pencil. And I always advise this because inevitably somebody either asks to borrow mine because they get like a regular pencil and those erasers are for them. These, get yourself a good eraser because you don't want to hear it. You're going to make tons of mistakes. And instead of like violently crossing through sections, you can just go through and erase it. And stuff. But I do advise, the kid said for some reason this was like the most important thing to get was a nice eraser. In terms of what our grades are, we do have a weighted grading system, which means in the beginning your grade will fluctuate incredibly. But and it's 50%, your grade is weighted, 50% of your overall grade comes from tests, 30% comes from quizzes, 20% comes from your daily assessments. We don't do extra credit in here that frequently because it artificially inflates your grades to something almost laughable. And the other end of it is we don't do, by and large, we don't do corrections, redos, whatever other stuff happens. And here's the reasoning why. If I were to go through and give you maybe 2 or 3 graded assignments a year, you could come to me legitimately and say, you know what, I had a bad day before one of them. It's kind of not, I didn't do well on that test. I got a 65 on it. I know it's a test. It's really going to weigh my grade down because that 65 goes in the 50% bucket, the biggest one we got for our grade. That's not, I need some extra credit, or can I do test corrections or something like that. One of the problems that we have is that teachers, and I guess teachers in general, don't realize, like, when they do test corrections, they do it wrong. They tell you to do it wrong. So it's not literally, I think, well, who had test corrections last year? And what did they do? Did they make you, like, do the question again and then write out why, and then you were done? And how many points did you get? Yeah. So the problem that we have is this. The actual way test corrections should work, because they actually do work, but the problem is they're doing the first half and the easy half of what test corrections are. You're supposed to do what you said, which was just write it up on paper, whatever. The second thing is that lets you take a second test, and the second test you take is supposed to actually be harder than the first, because allegedly you mastered and learned from your mistakes the first time, so you take a harder test the second time, and that's actually what you get. They don't do that second test part because that's more work for people, and people don't like grading things. So instead of doing all of that again, what we do is this. Think of it like the temperature in Rochester. If I were to go through and try to describe the temperature in Rochester, I come to Rochester, let's say I'm from Florida. I come to Rochester once in January, once in December. I've got 2 temperature readings, and now I'm going to make my judgment for the whole year of Rochester weather based on those 2 temperature readings. What's the problem if I do that? Let's say I take it in January and in December. What's the problem with those 2? Is it going to accurately describe the weather in Rochester? Pretty much. Is that cold all the time? I'd say not. What do you think you could do to make it so you'd be giving a better representation of the weather in Rochester? What could you do different? Take more samples. So instead of taking it once every 6 months, you could take it maybe once a month. But you could still get better. Because instead of doing it every month, what could you do to make it even more accurate? Every minute, every second. I'll narrow it down to just every day. But what we've got to understand is you will have in here like 40 grades. And then somebody inevitably comes up and they go, well, I don't understand how my grade is an 80. Or something like that. And it's like, well, you've taken 40 assessments. They average out to be 80. Some you did, and then they always point to the good ones too. They're like, well, I got 100 on that. I'm like, right. And right the next day you got a 50 on that. So it kind of evens out. That's why that's why you take assessments all the time. I don't want it to be fluky in the least. I want to remove any bit of randomization in your grade that you're going to get. The more samples you take of something, the more accurate it is. So that's why you have a daily assessment when you come in. That's to make sure your grades are accurate reflections of what you know. And are you, let's brace for it now, because nobody likes to hear this in the beginning. Will you fail some of them? Absolutely. Absolutely. It happens. Are you going to get hundreds on some of them? Sure. And when we put all 30 of them together, that's going to give me a more accurate representation of how much you actually know. Not some fluke here where you did really well or some fluke where you did really poorly. We take a ton of them because I want it to be accurate. So that when we say that there's no extra credit and no makeup, we look at those things. The other end of it is this. Sporadically this happens, and it happened I think for about 5 kids last year in the beginning. They did terrible on the first unit exam, like a 60 or something like that. But they stuck it out, and then we noticed that their other grades, let's say your test grades are 60, 85, and 90. Now, does the 60 fit with that group? And the answer is probably not, especially if there's a lot of other grades there. So literally all I went through and did was say, all right, these kids, boy, there's mathematical ways of showing that it's actually an outlier. But this grade's an outlier. I'm going to drop that lowest grade. And it doesn't fit with the rest of the marks that the person's getting. That's fine. that you had one bad day out of 40 of them. Sometimes you're the bad day and you come on the test or whatever. But we're here to make sure that you to learn something. And giving test corrections doesn't exactly do that. Another thing that we do, anytime you miss class, we have a class YouTube page. We record every single class we have, including now. Here are, I think we've been doing it for 6 years now. I think we have like 500 or 600 videos, but this is literally every day of the year, last year. You can find what section you're in. That's why it's important to make sure that you know. So like this was, like you can go back and watch last year's first classes. You can go through and find it by your section. So like if you miss this day, Algebra 2 Enriched, Day 76, Probabilities, Section 3, you can figure out that's the class that I missed. And by the way, the most recent ones are going to be the ones that show up at the top. And you go back and you rewatch what we did for the day. And it's not that tough. The note packet that we're doing should kind of match the one that you see done on the video. If your section maybe isn't available or you find Section 4 or something like that, you can always watch it. But this comes up because every reason, I don't ask why you missed class. Because you could miss everything from a funeral to getting your learners. It really doesn't matter that much. At a funeral, you have my condolences, but we still go on, and part of being an enriched class is making sure you keep up with us. So just take 25, 30 minutes, whatever it is, make sure that you're up to speed, because when you come in, the next day you're still going to have to go through and get your assessment done. Okay? Any questions on that? I'm trying to think of what else. Yeah, I guess, and the one thing that always bothers me, especially from the enriched sections that we have coming up, you guys get sort of trained and conditioned to think that your self-worth in some ways is like tied to your grade. I've had people like, there was one young lady last year that was like violently sobbing because she couldn't answer one question on a test. You're never supposed to get that worked up about anything. The other thing that you all need to understand, especially as enriched students, we're bracing you and prepping you now to get ready for AP Calculus. That's on all of your radars. And even more than AP Calculus is what you're going to be taking next year, which is pre-calc. The biggest thing that we need you all to make sure that you know, if you get above an 83% on your Algebra 2 Regents exam, you can take pre-calc for 4 college credits. It costs like $200 maybe through MCC. But you're taking the class anyways, including the MCC final. So you might as well go through and pay the money to take those classes. Raise your hand if you have an older brother or sister that is at or going to college. Do your parents, raise your hand if your parents talk about how cheap college is. No? Okay. It's because it's not. Like the part that I find so comical, this note packet that you have to start, this is the same note packet that I hand out when I teach college algebra at U of I. And when those get taken, now you guys pay $0 to take this class. When those kids show up, they're paying $5,600 a piece to take the exact same class that you're taking now. I use the exact same note packets and everything. So if you're going to sit through the class, let's make our floor grade an 83, because next year when you go to take pre-calc, you can take it for 4 college credits and be done. The other things, let's see what else? Yeah, and my goal is hopefully all of you at least want to go through and take stat and or calc when you're there. Next year, I actually encourage you to take both. Stats is wonderful, but calc, you see those projects that we went through and did, this is the stuff that we're bracing you for. Like last year you had some geometry stuff, but these are all calculus projects that kids went through and did. They found the volume of all of these shapes and these three-dimensional ones. That's what we're bracing you for. Now, one of the things that was kind of interesting was last year's kids, on the last day, we went over and said, what advice do you all have? Section 3. So this is what they said for you all. You'll get homework assigned in here. It's not graded. I like the first two. Do your homework and he doesn't check it. They're both correct. Very seldom do I check or collect homework. How am I going to know if you did the homework? When you come in the next day, when you sit down to take that assessment, if you didn't do your homework and it's something that you don't know how to do, are you going to struggle on the assessment? Probably. That's by design. Like if you don't know, we're completely performance-based. You don't get grades. Here's the one. I remember we took a field trip over to Sprott, and I almost had a dinner. Somebody was teaching math 8 Enriched, and it was someone's birthday, and somebody brought in cupcakes. And I heard the teacher say, "Oh, bonus points for this person for bringing in cupcakes." And in my head, I was sitting there and going, "No, like that's not how it works at all." And if that happens, that's a terrible. You're doing sort of a terrible job if you're the teacher for giving bonus points for stuff like this. They brought in Valentine's or candy or something. But that's not a math thing, which is why a lot of times there's this huge discrepancy between kids' grades and how they perform on standardized tests. By the way, let's ask this, because this always comes up as well. Raise your hand if you didn't do as well as you were expected to do on the GEO. 5, 10 of you? Okay. Because the one thing for me that was profoundly concerning was last year's group, I did the analysis between what their 4-quarter average was and what their Regents grade was. When they came in from GEO, the average spread was 13 points, which means if you were scoring a 90 during the year, take 13 points off of that, and that's your Regents exam. So from a 90, that means on the Regents exam you'd be getting a 77. Should that spread be allowed to happen? No. We went through and did it this past year. Our class average on the Regents exam was at 88. And I think it was something like 80% of our kids got above an 83. Actually, it might be more than that. Got the 83 or above. It's going to be a ton of work. The one thing that you all have to get accustomed to is, are you going to get questions wrong this year? Sure. Does it mean you're worth less as a person? The goal is, I'd be doing a terrible job, like in all honesty, I'd be doing a bad job if I gave you all questions that every one of you got right. That's just me not doing my job. You guys are here as enriched students. You guys are future engineers and psychologists and things like that. So we're going to prepare you accordingly. I don't want you getting to college or sitting there for the exam and thinking, "Oh, this was a joke," or "This was I wasn't ready for that." Even after we went through even after it, I sent a message out to the kids after they did it, and I don't know if there's these were how they thought they did last year, and I haven't looked them over that much. So the one thing that always, I want to make sure that you sit there and feel prepared, because the other thing was, I don't want you to go and sit in an exam, and if there's a topic that I could have covered and chose not to, because instead we decided to play like Kahoot or something like that. By the way, do we play Kahoot here? We do actually. But the problem is, I want you to be prepared. Like, I want you to leave that exam going, "I nailed it." And the funniest thing that made me feel happy last year was when the kids were walking out and they said, "Oh," and you'll see maybe one of them, where was it? There were some that said, maybe it came up there, that they knew what they missed. That's a good thing. Because the other kids were walking out going, "I didn't even know what happened." That's not a good feeling. And I don't want to put you in that place ever. I will push you mercilessly. There was one that put up, they equated me, and I don't know how it was, it's like long narrative, but they said that I was like, you know how sometimes there's that little bit of toothpaste left in the container, and like some people throw it away, and some people sit there and mercilessly like work that little corner bit out. I'm the person who will work that little corner bit out. If there will be times, I had a parent meeting about it last year, it was sort of comical, where a kid got got an 87 on an exam, and they studied. And I handed it back, and they said, "Aren't you proud of them?" I said, "In all honesty, I thought you could do better." Mom came screaming at me the next morning, "How dare you tell my child that you weren't proud of them? They studied." And I go, "I know. I thought they could have gotten a 95. Like, I don't lowball any of it. You think I'm happy with an 87? I'm barely happy with a 100. I will push you all the time because you're smart people. I want you to be successful. Did you raise your hand at this? Because that GEO exam, from what I understand, was not good. Raise your hand if you felt lost at some point during the GEO Regents exam. Still want to play Kahoot all the time? We can.
We can think about, I have no idea what time it was.
These are their responses. I felt prepared. Last question was hard. They're telling me which questions they thought they screwed up on, which indicates to me that they knew what they were doing. When they say I felt prepared, what was the other one? A half-life question got me. There you go. This person knew the question that they didn't know how to do. That means they probably got the rest of the questions right. Let's see. Get out of this. That's it. We'll do this now as well. Go right now, because let's say the first row, go over please and pick up one of the, by the way, our calculators are all on the side over there. When you pick them up, I know this is not the case today because I forgot to mention it the first time. You're going to snag one of those calculators every day when you come in, and the yellow one's on the side. What you're going to need to go through and do, to pick one up, we'll log into it together, there's a number on the back of it. That's what one of the spots it goes in. It says number 1. That's what spot you're supposed to put it in. 1. And then there tends to be some lazy Larrys who sit there and throw it any place. Fix it for those people. Let's have the first row. Please slide up and grab a calculator. We'll go over how you're going to log in a minute. It takes 2 seconds. It's not a big deal. In second row, you guys can head over as well. Third row, you guys can head over. You guys can head over as well. That's the toughest part of the exam.
Denise, I kind of work for this in Spanish.
Good.
So, I don't know.
Oh, well, we'll figure it out. So, go right now, please. And your calculator should be on. Take a look, by the way. Is there numbers on the back? Yeah, there should be numbers on the back. That's what bay it goes in. Make sure, please, that you push it down until the green light goes on. We're going to go over how you sign into your calculators, because every day you're going to go through and sign in. You make sure you're on the home screen, and then you just press 5. You can actually just press the button 5. And then a login screen will come up.
Good morning.
Now, your username is going to be the first letter of your first name and then your last name. So if you're Bob Smith, it's B. Smith.
Of the day. Just want to give you a few.
Password, 1, 2, 3, 4.
First rule is the golden rule, and that's treat everybody how you'd like to be treated yourself. So
And then click OK. Now, does anyone have the login button grayed out?
including your cafeterias.
You do?
If you wonder what lunch you are in,
Oh, you're already in. Okay.
reading paper schedule.
Now, sometimes you'll see over here if you've done it, your name's going to become black instead of gray and italicized. Go through right now. 1, 2, 3, 4. First letter of your first name and then your last name. Anyone having issues? Okay, if you are, it's our first time to do it.
So please check your schedule. Make sure you're
Okay, so we have an users page made out there.
study hall. Please study hall. Again, that's designated.
You said you got to do the same thing.
While you're in the cafeteria, just make sure, please.
Who else has issues with
Get
it?
your food. Stay in your table or seat area. And when you're done, please.
Yeah, it stopped. Where are you? Oh, wait a minute. You know what? I think it rejected it. Because it's seeing at the end. We'll get you. So, anybody else having trouble?
Best for class meetings on Monday,
Is there an Aiden?
the library.
Did you get it or no?
Lounge, that's next to the library.
Now, and I'll tell you this. Sometimes when you come in, you're going to see that login button. It's going to be grayed out. It's just the calculator needs to get reset. If you ever get stuck and the calculator's acting up, turn the calculator over, like you can physically do that now. Turn the calculator over. See how there's a reset button in there? If it ever doesn't work, just take the tip of your pencil, don't stab it, you're supposed to have some range issues. Save it for therapy. Just go through, please. You gently hit it, and it will reset everything. And you can log in at that point. But, and remember the password is going to be? There you go. So, we should be all right getting that logged in. That's how that works. The other thing that we're going to, well, so, open up your notes. That's our stuff for today. You should have 2 sheets on your desk. One is going to be your note packet, and the other one is this factoring check-down list. So take a look at that. Factoring is everyone's, for some reason, least favorite unit, and it's one of the most important things that we do in Algebra 2. So the reason that people don't like it is because they're not used to doing it. We will do it to the extent that you would need in order to get yourself ready to go into calculus next year. That's how ready you're going to be, and we'll work on it. This is how you do a check-down list. You start from your expression, go all the way down and see which one this is going to be. First thing you got to look for is the GCF. You should know how to do that. That's from Algebra 1. And there's an example, this one, GCF of 3m. That's something you can undistribute out or factor out. Second thing is the DOPS, which is the difference of perfect squares. You take the square root of the left and the square root of the right. If they're perfect squares, plus or minus between them, follow that factor pattern. Fast factoring, those are the easy ones. That has to multiply to the end value and add to the middle. There's some examples of how that works. We haven't done guess and check yet, nor have we done, you've technically done grouping, but really these last 4 you haven't done. You may have done something like the grouping, but the way that some people teach it is a little bit math magic, and we're going to stay away from that. Take a look now, and that should be, just keep it on the solve. I mean, we made it. Looking at that first grouping, what's the GCF in 1A? Hands up, please, if you can tell me. What's your GCF, or what can we divide out? What's our common factor in 1A? Go ahead. What's that? Good, and what's left when you factor out the 9? Careful. The quantity z minus 2. You're right, it's negative 2. Don't forget the z as well. Now, that's our first one. All we're doing, see what's in common. And by the way, when you want to say parentheses, you say the quantity of. So if we're reading this out, it's 9 times the quantity of z minus 2. Take a look at the next one for B. What's our GCF in B? Hands up, please, if you can answer that. Go ahead. 7. So what's left after you factor out the 7? There we go. What about our GCF in C? That's 1. There really isn't one. That's another thing, by the way. All of these factoring questions, everyone keeps acting like everything factors down. It doesn't. It's okay to say something's prime, meaning it doesn't break down anymore. What about something like, these are kind of easy. Take a look at question, let's do about question 2D. Who thinks they can tell me the GCF of that? That's going to be the toughest one that we do. What would the GCF in 2D be? Who thinks that they have that? We got one person sitting at 5. And give it a try. Just track for what you're on. We got 4 so far. What's that? You can take a 6 out from all of them, an M out, and an N out. There's more. 6 times squared. There you go. Because we can take out 2 of the M's from each term. And when you do that, all you're doing now is dividing each of them by what our GCF is or undistributed it. I don't care how you process it, but that's what you would be left with, that quantity. Okay? Now, before you head out, we didn't get to too much, so I'm not going to be that stressed if you don't get to it. My advice, what I would suggest for homework for you all tonight is this. 1 through, and I'll even say for you all, honestly, 1 through 19 odd. You can do it right on that paper as font. It's at the bottom of page 2. All right? And we will see you all tomorrow. Is that right? No. We'll see you all Thursday. Thank you very much. Make sure your calculators go back in the right spot, kids. Thank you very much. It's not going to be okay. It's possible.
Yeah, I gotta change this morning. I'll double check for
Even if you don't
tomorrow.
have one tomorrow, and the day after that. Okay, don't stress out. All right?
I haven't gone through.
We'll add yours in now.